Am I the idiot for telling my son I can't trust him? And make sure you watch until the end because this story takes a crazy turn during the update. I have 3 kids. A 15-year-old son and 8-year-old twin daughters. They all get along well and my son loves his sisters and vice versa. Sometimes my husband and I have to go to certain events and I ask my son if he can watch his sisters for the night. He usually says yes unless he has plans. I just asked my mom then. So on Friday night we had an event to go to and I again asked my son if he'd be willing to babysit. He said sure, and that was it. We came back at around midnight, and I went to check on the kids and my son was fast asleep while one of the twins was puking her guts out and the other one was crying. I was surprised, but I also didn't really blame my son in any way. They weren't really making any noise and were clearly asleep before all hell broke loose. Well, I managed to calm my girls down, and they end up telling me how their big brother was really mean and grumpy all day, and when they asked for food he gave them a jar of peanut butter. The twins cannot have peanut butter, they aren't allergic, but it makes them ill. The girls know as well, but they were hungry, and he said they had to eat it. My son knows this, and the peanut butter is kept out of the twins' sight and reach and is literally only in the house for him. I woke him up the next morning and asked him if all this was true. He just made a noise and was all like, "The little snitches. Yes, so they had a little peanut butter, what's the big deal?" I told him that he knows they can have it, and not only that, but I also don't like how they described his attitude. Especially when he told them they had to eat it. He just told me to stop overthinking. He forgot peanut butter makes them that sick. He only said they had to eat it because he didn't want them going hungry. He didn't feel like ordering, cooking or warming up leftovers either, and also the twins were being annoying. I told him that these excuses are not good enough, and that what he did was honestly kind of cruel. I told him that I don't know if I can trust him with the girls anymore as well. He just rolled his eyes and told me that I'm being really freaking dramatic and that the twins will be fine. I don't need to act like this. He's really upset with me, and every time me or his dad says anything, he'll just reply with, "Oh, I thought I was cruel? I thought you couldn't trust me?" He's not budging and he's not normally like this, so I'm wondering, am I the idiot? My sister told me to post on here since I'm so conflicted. Didn't think it would hurt. Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. If this had been someone other than your son, I'd be calling it abuse and assault. Certainly negligent. He is clearly unreliable and I'd be very upset. The fact you let your son talk to you in such a manner is alarming as well. Comment 2. Not the idiot, but I'm concerned about all the kids involved here. Has there been a sharp change in his behavior recently? Is there possibly a need of his that's not being met? Perhaps he feels like the twins are getting preferential treatment. I'd explore that route first. Something is not right if he's all of a sudden causing intentional harm to his younger siblings. Keep the younger ones safe and have a real talk with the older ones. If he's not willing to talk to you, take him to a professional. Then the original poster responded with, "Now that you mention it, he's definitely more in his head and not aware of what's going on around him. Also, he's very stubborn now, but I assumed it was just puberty. He's not normally like that. I'll discuss other options with my husband once he gets back from work." Now for the update. First, I'm sorry if I make mistakes or if I don't make sense. I'm in shock and I've been crying for hours. My sister reminded me of my post and then suggested quickly writing an update to help myself process the situation. Like I said, I talked to my son, just him and I. He implied that something happened to him and seemed really nervous. His hands were shaking, he couldn't keep eye contact, etc. He said that he'll tell me once Dad comes home because he doesn't know if he can muster up the courage to say it again. This concerned me a lot. I was hoping that it was girl problems, and now that I know what it was, I wish it was him feeling like he babysits too much like many of you guys suggested. His dad came home and we put the girls to bed. Then we sat down to talk. He then told us what happened. I'm being vague on purpose, but I have never seen my husband cry, and what our son told us was enough to break us both. My son began to just say whatever came into his mind and said that he had interacted with the person that inflicted harm upon him earlier that day and was in a very off mood. Anything the twins did made him angry, and then they asked for food, but he was in a bad mood, so he offered the fruit and quick and easy junk food I had mentioned we had, but they refused to eat it. He said that he suddenly felt as if he was back where the bad thing happened to him, and he ended up telling them that he was going to give them peanut butter for being annoying. The same way that person did something to him for being disruptive and annoying. He told me they were hesitant, but they ate it so as to not make him angrier, and when he snapped back to reality he got nervous and made them promise not to tell. The girls then said something which put him back in that bad place, but he managed to go into his room before he did anything else. He said he was really sorry and that he's really scared because he can feel himself turning into the person that did that to him. He said that he doesn't know why he yelled at me so much and he just would not stop crying. We comforted him and he ended up falling asleep. I'll be honest though, I'm scared. His behavior changes are making sense now, but I never thought that person would do such a thing to my baby. My poor son who was so freaking scared. We're going to get a lawyer in again, being vague on purpose, but my husband is determined to put that sick, disgusting human away. We'll also be getting therapy for my son. I was going to talk about some things you guys mentioned, but I don't know if I can write anymore. I'm exhausted. Just know that I took everything into consideration. My son won't be babysitting for a while due to his mental health. Not because I don't trust him, but because of his own fear. I'll also be booking a doctor's appointment to figure out the girl's problem with peanuts. Also, parents, please keep in mind that although it's true that teens can be massive jerks, big changes don't occur simply due to puberty. There is always a bigger reason. Bullying, peer pressure, drugs, sexual abuse, etc. Anything is possible. It's easy to think that things can happen to your children, but look at where that left me. I thought my kids would be safe. We live in the safest neighborhood, and my kids are growing up with lots of privileges many can only dream of. Yet my son was still hurt by an adult we all trusted. Don't make my mistake. Teach your kids to say no and scream for help. Tell them that no one has the right to their bodies. Tell your sons that it can happen to them. I know it's hard, but it's a lot harder to hear your child cry because it happened. I didn't think my post would get any attention, but maybe it was for the better. At least now people know what can happen to their children. My son is female 6, tall, and has the build of a true hockey player, and it happened to him. He's not shy and is never afraid to speak his mind, but he still kept it a secret. Don't make my mistakes. If I don't respond to any more comments, please excuse me. I only wrote this because my husband is taking a shower, my children are asleep, and I can't stand being alone with my thoughts right now. Again, I appreciated all the comments, even the ones criticizing my parenting. Comment 1. You're the idiot. Are you kidding me? This whole story is just a desperate attempt to gain sympathy and attention. It's obvious that you're exaggerating and manipulating the situation to make yourself look like a victim. Your son made a mistake, but it's clear that he didn't have any ill intentions. You're blowing things way out of proportion and making a big deal out of nothing. It's just peanut butter, for God's sake. And now you're talking about getting a lawyer and therapy? That's absolutely ridiculous. Stop trying to play the victim card and move on. Your son doesn't need your constant judgment and criticism. Maybe if you were a better parent, he wouldn't feel the need to act out. You should be ashamed of yourself. Before we get on to the next comment, I just want to say that whoever wrote that is insane. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, here's the next comment. Oh God. This was my worst fear about your situation. I'm so sorry. You and your husband are great parents, and you're doing all the right things. Please try and believe that this isn't your fault. It can happen to the children of the most wary and involved parents who have educated their children. Perpetrators of this crime can be so skillful in their abhorrent behavior. My mom did all the right things, but my brother and I are still CSA survivors. Your son will be okay, eventually. There's a whole community here for him when he's ready. Comment 3. I'm so sorry that you all are going through this. I saw your post yesterday and had you on my mind today. I'm sending positive thoughts and wishes to you all. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for brushing off my adopted brother's feelings of being second best in our family? I, female 18, have 4 siblings: Tom, male 29, Cam, male 26, Sam, male 24, and Ro, male 19. Ro was adopted when he was 13. His biological parents decided they didn't want a baby. The rest of us are biologically siblings. All 5 of us went to an art school. The older boys for music, me for art, and Ro is going for dance. I found out through some friends that Ro has been saying our parents have always treated him differently. This weekend Ro has a show, but my art show is the same day. A couple days ago our parents said they tried to make it to him, but they're not totally sure if they could. He hung up on them and, according to one of our friends, locked himself in his dorm and wouldn't talk to anyone. His roommate called me and said he's still really upset and was hoping I could talk to him. I said he was just being sensitive and I hung up to call him. I let him vent for a while. According to him, mom and dad have always put everyone else first. He also said they were disappointed when he went to dance. But they got over it. I said he was overreacting and needed to chill out. He hung up on me and blocked my number. Now I'm getting texts and calls from his roommate, Sam, and all our mutual friends saying I'm an idiot, I'm a witch, I'm selfish, and I need to apologize. Mom, Dad, Tom, and Cam are on my side. So am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. You're the idiot. And your parents too. Divide and conquer. Why can't one come to your show and the other go to his? Them prioritizing your show is evidence to him that they haven't gotten over him doing dance. It's evidence to him that they don't really care. It's their job to show him they do. Then the original poster responded with, "You're right, thank you for being honest. Now I see they haven't gotten over it but pretended in front of us other kids." It kind of makes me wonder if they've said anything to him in private or more just silently disapproved. Comment 2. You're the idiot. Your brother has only been a member of your family for 5 years. He also has 13 years of feeling unwanted, insecure, and having every fear of rejection come to fruition. Your positions are not the same, and your breathtaking lack of awareness says that both you and your parents and your other siblings are cool with a lack of imagination, empathy, and understanding that borders on abusive. You guys all needed to go out of your way to make him feel included and secure, and instead, you're all on the same page that it's okay to treat him like an also-ran. You suck, your parents suck, your siblings suck, and you are all unforgivably in the "you're the idiot" column. Then the original poster responded with, "I never thought of it like that." So basically after he got adopted he was still feeling like a guest who's overstayed. That explains a lot. Comment 3. You're the idiot. Do you have any idea how traumatizing adoption is? You seem to have no care for him in the slightest, which confirms him saying he's treated differently in the family. I'm assuming this isn't the first time your parents have picked a bio child over him. He probably finally had enough. "You're being dramatic," is what people say to people they have absolutely no empathy or care for. I feel sorry for him. Now for the update. Thank you everyone for your input. I decided against going to my art show, called all of our family and friends and had them show up to his instead. We got it sold out. We all met up with him for lunch beforehand and gave him his little gifts. He said he appreciates it but it'll take a while to trust us again, which is very valid considering how we've been treating him. He also introduced us to his boyfriend. They're adorable together. Mom and Dad thanked him for being someone Ro could turn to when he needed someone. They did great. They even got a standing ovation at the end. Ro did injure his ankle slightly in the beginning of Act 1 during his first solo, but played it off amazingly. I'm proud of him, and it was amazing to formally meet his boyfriend. Mom and Dad sat him down in front of all of us and apologized for how they treated him and promised they'd do better. After the show he came up and hugged me while crying to thank me. I told him it was all you guys. Thank you guys again. Comment 1. Thank you for the update. It could about anyone else but it makes my heart so happy when people are able to accept their part in the situation and try to rectify it. Comment 2. I just read your original post, and I am so happy to see that you saw the error of your ways, rallied with your family, and showed up. You all still have work to do to mend the trust that was broken, but this was a great first step. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day. Am I the idiot for not inviting my mother-in-law to Christmas celebrations? My male 31, wife, female 30, and I have one child, for male, and my wife is 6 months pregnant with our daughter who's due in March. My wife and I have been friends since we were about 5, so I've known her and her parents for more than 25 years now. Her parents were always very approving of us dating, which we started doing in high school. Her parents split up a year after my wife finished high school, and her dad moved out of the picture, so it was just her mom, now female 65, primarily. Her mother was the nicest person in the world until our first child was born 4 years ago. Her issue with it was that our son was born out of wedlock. She was very vocal about her disapproval of this, but my wife seemed to be able to get her to come around. However, she since has been cold, passive-aggressive, and in some cases downright mean to us, and much worse, our son. I wouldn't even say the family is religious, but it seems to just be a custom that is abided by in that family. My brother and sister-in-law both have partners, but are waiting until marriage to have kids, much to my mother-in-law's delight. The last 4 years, she has blown off numerous events, only hanging out with us if her other kids are busy. She didn't even come to our wedding, which of course caused a massive rift in the family. All of this time, I've been nothing but lenient with her. I've never lost my temper or gotten mad at her, never been vocal or had any resistance to her whatsoever. I've given her hundreds of chances to redeem herself. Last New Year's Eve, we convinced her to babysit our son. We made these concrete arrangements in September and checked in on it multiple times between September and December. As my wife and I were preparing to go out, getting dressed up, etc., she canceled on us, saying she had other plans. My wife and I weren't able to hire a babysitter, and so had to stay back with our son, which obviously wasn't the worst thing in the world. In June 2022, we told her we were expecting our second child, and I think you can imagine her reaction. "Oh, this time you actually waited until you were married," etc. She gave us hell, mostly through snarky remarks. But while a bit tipsy, a couple of days later she went so far to call us sex addicts, because none of her other kids had had kids yet. For all of this year, I've acted like nothing happened, blowing the New Year's Eve and June debacles off. But this Christmas, I've decided to take my revenge, and I told her she won't be invited to our family Christmas, which is saying something, because even my wife's dad, who we rarely make contact with, is coming. Christmas is a big deal in our family. I should also say that we have never been invited to anything hosted by her, although all of her other kids and their partners are, since our son was born. And in the rare case that she does invite our family, it's always just my wife specifically excluding me, often explicitly. Now, with me not inviting her, my mother-in-law is furious, my wife is furious, most of the family is furious, and now I need to know, am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. So I'm gonna say everyone sucks here because your mother-in-law is absolutely the AH, and I was with you until you said your wife was furious, implying you went over her head and not inviting her mother, so I'm afraid you're also the AH. You guys have been together a long time, and I would have hoped you had remembered that a couple, especially parents, need to be a team. You did something without agreeing with your teammate, and that's never going to go down well. Even more so, it's her side of the family that you made the decision about. Comment 2. I am sorry, but I don't agree with everyone calling Opie the AH because he didn't discuss this with his wife, since she's pissed at him too. This mother-in-law is horrible. Why in the world does Opie and his wife still have contact with her? Mother-in-law is over the top judgmental of having their baby out of wedlock. So over the top she refused to come to their wedding. She's constantly either passive-aggressive or just outright rude to both of them. She doesn't invite Opie, wife, her daughter, and child over to any event she's hosting. Blowing them off last year at NY was clearly done on purpose to punish Opie and his wife, and then being horribly rude to them in September. Her treatment would have to be obvious to even a 4-year-old. I am surprised the kid hasn't asked why grandma doesn't like me. While I agree this should have been a joint decision, I think that when you consider everything that mother-in-law is putting Opie through, it doesn't rise to the level of being an AH. Who in his right mind would want anything to do with this lady? So for me, it's a soft not the idiot, but when making such important decisions, talk to your wife. Now for the update. Thank you all for the replies, they helped me beyond belief, particularly by helping me better wrap my head around the situation. As for my wife and I, she was primarily upset that I had gone over her head on matters regarding her family, and I entirely understand where she's coming from. I've apologized to her, we've talked, and we have made up under the promise that we will work as a team from now on, and I will consult her on anything that involves her, particularly with her own family. As for the elephant in the room, my wife has always recognized her mother as a bit of an AH since our son was born, but has constantly operated under the "but she's family" pretense/excuse. Now, particularly with the help of these replies, as I explain it to her in a way that revolves more around our children than us, I feel she is beginning to come around to my viewpoint, which is one of wanting to protect our children at all costs, and to cut this harmful figure out of our lives. She does not want to cut her mother entirely out of her life, but has promised to, if it is our wishes, prevent her from seeing our son and I, effectively only keeping contact between my wife and her mother. I told her I felt that would be best, and she told me that in that case, it would only be her talking to her mother. She has also scheduled to go to therapy/counseling to better grasp the situation and understand where she should go next. She tried inviting her mother, but she vehemently refused, so it's just my wife for now. I now feel as though there's a huge weight that's been lifted off of my shoulders, and can finally look forward to the birth of my daughter in March without any connotations or dragdowns. Thank you again, guys, for all the replies. I honestly would never have been able to articulate my viewpoint to her if it wasn't for you and your thoughtful replies. You've made this situation 100x better, so I thank you again. Comment 1. Kinda shocked at how well that went for you. Good luck. I expect this won't be over and the mother-in-law will be even more difficult to deal with. You're going to need all you can get. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I remember a time when my stepmother and I were involved in a major confrontation. My dad pulled me aside and told me that if it came down to choosing sides, he would side with her every time. You've learned the same lesson. You and your wife are a team and need to communicate before making big decisions involving each other's family members. Comment 3. Honestly, you're the idiot here. Hear me out. Your mother-in-law has been part of your life for a long time. Sure, she's not the kindest, but she's old, set in her ways. You didn't think for a moment about how this might affect her. You had a chance to rise above her pettiness, to show your son what it means to be forgiving. Instead, you stooped to her level and left her out in the cold for Christmas. You should have been the bigger person here, instead of lashing out and causing more family discord. You're justifying your action as protecting your kids, but what are they learning from this? Think about it. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for refusing to take a gift back after it was disrespectfully taken off me? To begin, I'd say I love wearing scarves in my hair, but my boyfriend is not the kind who gives gifts at all. It was odd when he randomly showed up at my place with a scarf, though nothing to complain about. The scarf had some stains on it, but it was very beautiful. I washed it, and it immediately became my favorite. Fast forward a few days, I went to his parents' place to discuss our wedding. I noticed his sister was heavily focused on the scarf. Then suddenly she got up, walked towards me and tried pulling it off me, saying if I really wanted her scarf, I could have asked her instead of stealing it. I was shocked and confused and told her that my boyfriend gave it to me, but she refused to listen and kept calling me a liar. She even said that she recognized it because it had the nail polish stains she once dropped on it. I took it off, threw it at her and left before my boyfriend joined us. He later called me asking where I was and I told him I got home. When he returned, we got into a huge fight. I might be the as I didn't give him a chance to explain. He said that he'd bring the scarf back, but I told him am I the idiot for not inviting my mother-in-law to Christmas celebrations? My male 31, wife, female 30, and I have one child, for male, and my wife is 6 months pregnant with our daughter who's due in March. My wife and I have been friends since we were about 5, so I've known her and her parents for more than 25 years now. Her parents were always very approving of us dating, which we started doing in high school. Her parents split up a year after my wife finished high school, and her dad moved out of the picture, so it was just her mom, now female 65, primarily. Her mother was the nicest person in the world until our first child was born 4 years ago. Her issue with it was that our son was born out of wedlock. She was very vocal about her disapproval of this, but my wife seemed to be able to get her to come around. However, she since has been cold, passive-aggressive, and in some cases downright mean to us, and much worse, our son. I wouldn't even say the family is religious, but it seems to just be a custom that is abided by in that family. My brother and sister-in-law both have partners, but are waiting until marriage to have kids, much to my mother-in-law's delight. The last 4 years, she has blown off numerous events, only hanging out with us if her other kids are busy. She didn't even come to our wedding, which of course caused a massive rift in the family. All of this time, I've been nothing but lenient with her. I've never lost my temper or gotten mad at her, never been vocal or had any resistance to her whatsoever. I've given her hundreds of chances to redeem herself. Last New Year's Eve, we convinced her to babysit our son. We made these concrete arrangements in September and checked in on it multiple times between September and December. As my wife and I were preparing to go out, getting dressed up, etc., she canceled on us, saying she had other plans. My wife and I weren't able to hire a babysitter, and so had to stay back with our son, which obviously wasn't the worst thing in the world. In June 2022, we told her we were expecting our second child, and I think you can imagine her reaction. "Oh, this time you actually waited until you were married," etc. She gave us hell, mostly through snarky remarks, but while a bit tipsy a couple of days later she went so far to call us sex addicts, because none of her other kids had had kids yet. For all of this year, I've acted like nothing happened, blowing the New Year's Eve and June debacles off. But this Christmas, I've decided to take my revenge, and I told her she won't be invited to our family Christmas, which is saying something, because even my wife's dad, who we rarely make contact with, is coming. Christmas is a big deal in our family. I should also say that we have never been invited to anything hosted by her, although all of her other kids and their partners are, since our son was born. And in the rare case that she does invite our family, it's always just my wife specifically excluding me, often explicitly. Now, with me not inviting her, my mother-in-law is furious, my wife is furious, most of the family is furious, and now I need to know, am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. So I'm gonna say everyone sucks here because your mother-in-law is absolutely the and I was with you until you said your wife was furious, implying you went over her head and not inviting her mother, so I'm afraid you're also the You guys have been together a long time, and I would have hoped you had remembered that a couple, especially parents, need to be a team. You did something without agreeing with your teammate, and that's never going to go down well. Even more so, it's her side of the family that you made the decision about. Comment 2. I am sorry, but I don't agree with everyone calling Opie the because he didn't discuss this with his wife, since she's pissed at him too. This mother-in-law is horrible. Why in the world does Opie and his wife still have contact with her? Mother-in-law is over the top judgmental of having their baby out of wedlock. So over the top she refused to come to their wedding. She's constantly either passive-aggressive or just outright rude to both of them. She doesn't invite Opie, wife, her daughter, and child over to any event she's hosting. Blowing them off last year at NY was clearly done on purpose to punish Opie and his wife, and then being horribly rude to them in September. Her treatment would have to be obvious to even a 4-year-old. I am surprised the kid hasn't asked why grandma doesn't like me. While I agree this should have been a joint decision, I think that when you consider everything that mother-in-law is putting Opie through, it doesn't rise to the level of being an Who in his right mind would want anything to do with this lady? Am I the idiot for telling my soon-to-be sister-in-law that they're asking too much of their wedding guests? So a quick little backstory. My husband, male 21, and his brother, male 25, have always had a great relationship. His brother moved away when he was younger, and even though they're now 2 hours apart, they still regularly talk and play games online together. My husband is one of 6 kids, and they all are still in contact and on good terms. His parents are also still married. About 3 years ago, his brother introduced us to his girlfriend at the time. She was originally from a different state but moved here to be with him. Everything was fine until about a year into knowing her, when she started getting snotty and entitled. For one thing, she refused to work and expected him to support her and her mother, whom she had brought with her when moving here. She began going through people's things, making snide comments, and she even told me that I was privileged and said she would use our daughter's name for her daughter while I was in labor. She also wore sweatpants to our wedding and fell asleep at the reception. For their wedding, we were told we need to purchase medieval costumes, drive the 2 hours to their town, bring food for the reception, play outside games. And just recently she added that we would need to take pictures on our phones for them, since they can't afford a photographer. I mentioned to her that this all seemed like a lot to ask, especially considering they had refused to come for any family events prior to this. And she told me if I didn't like it, then I didn't have to come. I should add that my husband is in this wedding. She stopped responding to me after I said their attitude was hurtful and started telling my mother-in-law that I was hurting her, again, and making up stories about us kicking them out of our house. This has begun to affect my husband's relationship with his brother now, and I feel bad, but at the same time, all of my in-laws are happy I said something to her and appalled at how snotty she and my brother-in-law have been lately. Am I the idiot for saying something? Edit. I feel like I should add that my current sister-in-law, female 15, has a birthday the day before their wedding. She specifically asked for it not to be on her birthday weekend before they had a date picked because she wanted all the family here for her birthday. Now they are saying we need to come up there the day before, on her birthday, to help prepare their food even though they know it's her birthday. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Here's what you do. If you're petty like me, first, rent the most beautiful, elaborate, cream-colored medieval dress so that you look better than her by far. If you don't have a costume rental place, learn to sew today and make it real grand. Next, make 1 dozen deviled eggs. Nothing more. Last, hire 2 minions who will follow you around, carrying your very long dress train, and have them respond to everything you say with, "Yes, my queen." Then take pictures of her face and inbox me BC I need a follow-up. Asterisk edited for my piss poor autocorrect errors. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You can't pick your in-laws. Your future sister-in-law is an unpleasant person who wants a medieval potluck wedding with cornhole and croquet. Find a cheap cape online, make some potato salad and make the best of it. It's one day, it's not worth causing a rift between your husband and his brother. Now for the update. The wedding was today. We arrived at the ceremony about 15 minutes before it was supposed to start, as we had been told there was no rehearsal and to just be there when the other guests would get there. We arrived and my husband was greeted by his brother with, "Where have you been? We've been going over everything and you weren't here." Again, we had been told there was no rehearsal, but apparently his brother had decided the night before that they would be going over everything an hour before the ceremony, and we were not informed. Anyway, my husband goes back to be with the wedding party and we sit down. They did end up getting a photographer, but she was very pushy and kept snapping in people's faces to get their attention. The ceremony was fine. Typical wedding ceremony, aside from the Renaissance outfits. But then we went to the reception. The reception was outdoors in a barn. It had been raining all day, so there were a lot of bugs. When we got there, no decorations had been set out and there was only one table for people to eat at. This was a group of 40 to 45. 2 hours after we got there, they started bringing the food in. Apparently they had assigned one of the bride's older relatives to make all the food, and somewhere along the hustling and bustling of making food for all those people, the poor man had a heart attack. He was rushed to the hospital, and he is okay, but they had absolutely no backup plan. They ended up cooking all the food themselves when they got to the reception. They cut the cake without announcing it, so the photographer had to hastily run over there to get pictures, and after the cake cutting, the bride's entire family disappeared and we did not see them for the remainder of the time we were there. Her mother did come into the barn every half an hour or so to smoke a cigarette, but that was it. There was no dancing, no bouquet toss, because they carried lanterns instead, and the guests that were left kind of just stood around. Needless to say, it was chaos at its finest. Thank you to everyone who commented on the original post. I'm sure we will have many similar family gatherings in the future. Edit. So it turns out the man who had the heart attack is the boyfriend of the bride's mother, and he faked the entire thing. Apparently he's known for that. And the mother of the bride lied about taking him to the hospital so he wouldn't have to make the food. Edit. As if it wasn't bad enough, we found out that the mother of the bride didn't take any pictures at the wedding, at all. And she just waited until brother-in-law's parents put their pictures on Facebook so she could post them as her own. She also blew up at brother-in-law at the reception because no one was talking to her, even though she kept leaving to go smoke in her cabin. They're a very odd family. Comment 1. What an insane and horrible event. Poor planning, poor execution, and just awful people. I am so sorry for your family to be stuck with her as an in-law. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You will have years of pleasure talking to your friends about the absurdity of the event and others. Hopefully, the brothers will grow closer together over time. He will need your husband's support. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for leaving my friend at a party because she insulted me? Last weekend me, male 21, and my best woman friend, female 21, Tina, went to a party. Me and Tina have been friends since our freshman year, and we've become best friends. At the party, Tina got pretty hammered, not completely trashed, but she was pretty drunk. We were sitting down talking to a couple of our mutual friends, and somehow we got onto the topic of dating. One of our friends asks us why me and Tina never got together since we're such good friends. Without missing a beat, Tina says, and I quote, "Ugh, gross, God freaking no." That took me and everyone a little by surprise. It wasn't even a, "No, he's like my brother," kind of way. This was of pure disgust, like I was repulsive. I said, "Well, frick you too," kind of in a joking way, but actually serious. I think she realized what she said and tried to walk it back. "He's just like my friend. I don't even want to think about it." No one really bought it, but I guess we all laughed it off. I was pretty insulted, so I just decided to leave. The only problem was that I drove us to the party, and I was Tina's ride back. An hour later, Tina calls me and says thanks for leaving her. I say thanks for calling me ugly. She said that I was in a hole for leaving her at the party and having to find another way home. She told me to get over myself, and that was just kidding. I just hung up. Not gonna lie, I'd been hitting the gym hard since then, and Tina hasn't really talked to me since, and I don't really want to anyway. I don't have feelings for Tina, but her words were like a slap in the face. Especially since I don't have much success in the dating department. I've been thinking that maybe I just got in my feelings too much, and maybe I overreacted. So did I overreact to Reddit? Am I the a-holy for leaving Tina at the party? Edit. Since there's some confusion here, I don't want to date Tina, and I'm not some nice guy dude who only hangs out around women to date them. I was upset with what she said and how she said it. Edit 2. Taking some advice here. I reached out to Tina this morning so we can talk and clear the air. She said that we can talk after classes finish this afternoon. I'll let you know how that goes. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I really don't get all the "you're the idiot" comments here. Taking someone to a party does not obligate you to them no matter what they say or do. And it sounds like she had plenty of mutual friends, and Uber/Lyft are available to get back. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I'm a woman. I wouldn't want to be around someone who said that about me in that tone either. People are missing that OP doesn't want to date Tina. He's upset about how Tina said it, and how needlessly vehement she was about it. Also, it's not his responsibility to babysit Tina just because she's a woman and made the adult choice to get drunk. Women aren't infants incapable of making decisions, and just because she made the decision to drink as a woman doesn't obligate OP to stick around all night after she insulted him. Now for the update. Hello everyone, I've received a few requests asking for an update on my situation, and I did promise one, so here I am. To begin with, I feel bad for leaving her at the party. I shouldn't have done that. Like everyone here said, I should have just offered her a ride, found her another ride, or told her I was leaving. I was so embarrassed and angry that I just didn't want to be around her anymore, so I left quietly. Thanks to a kind Redditor, I believe I may have some self-esteem and anger issues I need to work out, so I have scheduled a meeting with my campus counselor, and maybe get some professional therapy after that. Now on Friday afternoon I texted my friend Tina to talk so we can finally clear the air. She agreed and we met at her dorm. I apologized for leaving her at the party and not telling her I was leaving. She said that she is still pretty mad about leaving her in an unsafe situation when she was drunk. I told her I was upset at what I felt was her perceived revulsion. She apologized and said that she shouldn't have made me feel so unattractive. She said that because I'm like her brother, she would never find me attractive, but that doesn't mean other girls don't. I told her that I don't care if she did find me attractive. I was just upset with the tone. She said she understood. After I left, one of our friends told her that she kinda went overboard with it, and she really regretted how she said it. She apologized again, and I apologized again for leaving her. We admitted that we're not super happy with each other at the moment, and are going to take some time apart to sort out our feelings, not romantic, toward each other. If we run into each other, we're not gonna be awkward, and we might even text. But no hanging out like we were before. And that's it. Not a particularly happy update, but I guess it's better than nothing, right? Thanks to all the Redditors who helped me through this little mini saga. I guess I'll see you all in therapy. Comment 1. I'm not sure why people were trying to nice guy you in the original. She was rude. Had this been your best guy friend who said it, it'd still be rude. Had she meant it was because you were a brother to her, she would have said it, drunk or not. Her apology didn't seem all that sincere to me, and it sounds like you two aren't actually best friends. But it sounds like you have a great friend group around you that's willing to support and defend you. I'm glad you are taking time for yourself and putting you first and getting and feeling better. Comment 2. It's happy in the sense that both of you realized that you had something to apologize for, and both of you did apologize. It takes a big person to admit they did something wrong, and both of you should be given credit for that. I hope you can maintain your friendship somehow. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for refusing to be a bridesmaid months before the wedding? I, female 18, was asked back in September by my cousin's fiancé to be a bridesmaid to their wedding, which is in March. I agreed, but let her know in advance that I had lost my job back in August due to college schedules, and that I hadn't been able to find a new one for said reason. She assured me the prices were going to be very comfortable for me and that she would have it into consideration, but to please grant her the honor. She also showed me the infinity dresses she wanted from Amazon, $35. I agreed, but then last week she came up with a group chat, where she stated the prices, which are these: bridesmaids cost, infinity dress, $100 pink Vans, $80 bachelorette Airbnb, $100 makeup, $130 hair, $60 matching jewelry, $30 apparently she found the same dresses at a local boutique, at a slightly higher price. When I asked about the prices, she told me to just ask someone to lend me the money. We have until Tuesday, January 10th to pay, and that it wasn't a big deal. I honestly don't have the money or anyone whatsoever to lend me that amount, so I just told her I couldn't afford it. I know it's a little late to find another bridesmaid, but I just can't risk spending money on a wedding that isn't mine, especially when I have rent and other bills to pay. I also think I've been uninvited, so am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. It is a despicable idea to want anyone to go into debt just to look pretty in wedding pictures. As for being uninvited, well, count yourself lucky. You then don't have to spend money on a gift either. This person is clearly not a friend. Comment 2. Not the idiot, she's being ridiculous. She had the nerve to ask you to go into debt to be her bridesmaid? After being told clearly that you were on a budget. Hell no. Absolutely not. Don't feel even a little bit guilty about telling Bridezilla this isn't going to work. Now for the update. Thank you for all the comments and POVs in the last post. I want to clarify that although the bride and I are not family, I've always been closer with her than with my cousin. I wanted to give an update on how everything turned out since we had, until today, to pay the $500. Yesterday she sent a message to the wedding group chat saying that she would be changing bridesmaid and calling off the bachelorette party since only 1 out of 16 people assisting the bachelorette party, and 1 out of 4 bridesmaids had paid. 2, and myself bailed for the pricing. She asked me again, saying that the dresses were actually $35, but she was running out of funds for the bachelorette and decided that was the best way to pay for it. The plans changed. We paid $35 personally to the seller, and accessories are optional and our choice. I advised her to give out refunds to the people who paid because it isn't right to use other people's money like that. And she did. At this point I am only going as a bridesmaid for support, and even though I hate to say it, I felt bad that she ended up by herself. So I agreed. Her guests are starting to cancel, since she also tried to charge them in advance for food and drinks. I'm currently trying to help her do things right and accept that she needs to accommodate according to her budget. And yes, we're on good terms, I think, trying to be good friends. Again, thank you all. Comment 1. Wait, she tried to charge guests? To attend her wedding? Then the original poster responded with, she asked them to pay for the plate. It was like $15 per plate, I think. Comment 2. She really doesn't deserve your help on this. She tried to manipulate and lie flat out to get her wedding paid for. By not only her bridal party but guests as well. If having a wedding is this much of a struggle where you need to lie, it's not okay. She should have canceled the wedding when she realized it was more than she could afford. There are some people that will never get past how she behaved. Then the original poster responded with, she can afford a wedding, just not the one she was planning. She was going over $30,000 in budget when she can only spend about $15K. So not only was she gonna take money from other people, but she was also going to take a huge loan. When she doesn't even have a car or a house for herself, which should have been a priority. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.